Since the beginning of this year, God has truly been teaching me what it means for him to be an on-time God. And it all started with a sermon that I watched in January from 2819. Let's see if I put the title. It was called Make It Make Sense. I watched it on YouTube, and I watched this in January. I took some really good notes, but I didn't fully understand what I was listening to, honestly. Like, I knew that it was important, but I didn't, like, it just wasn't clicking. And it's just interesting to me because I remember a pastor saying that God reveals knowledge to you when he wants to, if that makes sense. Like, say you're reading the Bible, maybe a couple years ago you read a passage and like you read it, you remember it, like you understand it, but like it doesn't truly click until God opens your eyes. He gives you that wisdom to fully understand what you're reading, if that makes sense. But yes, I didn't fully understand what this sermon was saying until a couple months later in March when I was applying for a job. And some of the points that it went over, I'll just read like the little recap that I wrote at the end of it. It says, God is waiting for us to fully trust that he has done it. When things look impossible, we must have faith and continue moving because God uses the impossible to prove it. It can't be done without him. Instead of entertaining a backup plan, we must truly submit it to God. And God truly has been teaching me that my plans are not on my time. Like, I might have a timeline, I might have a deadline of when I want to get this done. Like, I had a deadline on when I wanted to get a new job. I had a timeline for when I was going to get my apartment. When I tell you, none of it ended up working out the way that I was expecting it to. I got a job 3 months later than I was expecting I was going to. I got the keys, I got approved to my apartment the day of my move-in. I applied 2 weeks early and I thought it was gonna be a quick process. No, it was not. It was not a quick process, and I was anxious. I was considering a backup plan. I was like, okay, I'm going back to Atlanta. I didn't ask to be here to begin with. Like, God brought me to New York. He brought me over here, which is the story for another time. But I was entertaining my backup plans instead of trusting that if he brought me here, he's going to provide. Like, he's gonna make a way. He didn't bring me here for no reason. And I've seen so many good fruits come out of this, like, beautiful blessing that I stepped into when I said yes to staying in New York instead of going to Spain, which is what I planned on doing last summer. And it's just so interesting to me that things happen so last minute. Like I said, I got my keys the day of my move-in, and during those 2 weeks, I was going back and forth, wrestling with God. Like, is this meant to be? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, just so anxious about the outcome. And I feel like God uses those seasons to produce faith in us, to produce trust, because this honestly wouldn't, this life that I have honestly wouldn't have happened or won't happen if I don't keep God in the center of it. And he always makes a way. He always opens the doors. And I have so many scenarios and so many situations I can look back on and see how he was working and see how things always continue to work out. But I feel like as human, I just forget that when I'm in the thick of it, when I just don't see how things are going to work out, I forget about the way that he did it before. I forget how he, has always provided. So yeah, I feel like this sermon just really, I just always come back to it because I feel like God does things last minute, so we have no other person to give the glory to but him. And I used to be a very prideful, a very prideful person. I would take credit for everything. I've always been super independent. I've always said I got it on my own, I did this on my own, whatever it may be. And I feel like God has been trying to pull that out of me, because truly I would not have been able to do anything that I've done in my life without God opening those doors and providing it to me. And with these recent situations this past year, I feel like that's why they've been so impossible, why they've been so like last minute, it's because he wants me to give glory to him. He wants me to testify that, okay, even though this didn't line up, even though I didn't have this documentation, or I didn't do this, or that have this, or this qualification, he still made a way. It still became possible, even though to the human eye, it should have never have happened. He still made a way. It only could have been God. All glory to God. And I feel like he's just been giving me this testimony over and over again, so I can, of course, like share his glory and his goodness, instead of saying that I did it on my own, because there's no way I could have done it on my own in the scenarios that he's been giving me. Back to me wanting to move to Spain for the second time, that was my plan, and God told me to stay in New York, and that wasn't my plan. That's not what I wanted to do. But it turns into something so beautiful and exactly what I wanted and exactly what I needed. And now I'm here in New Jersey, which I never would have imagined I would have ended up or even settled down. So it's just crazy that, yes, like even though things might turn out different than what we originally wanted, he's always going to make sure it's for our good. It's always going to turn into something beautiful. But yeah, that's just my encouragement to others, to just put their faith in God and to trust that he's going to make a way, he's going to provide. Even if it's not your way, it's going to be his way, which is always going to be so much better. Be patient, put your trust in him, and I promise you it's all going to work out. So yeah.